God bless everybody. Today it is September 23rd of 2023, and I just wanted to do a quick Middle East update. I believe Daniel 8 is getting ready to start up and expand. Erdogan is, as this article states, is getting ready to part with the EU, which would then mean he would leave NATO, and that would then push him into a war against the Kurds because he's been wanting to remove this threat on his border, which he thinks is a terrorist threat, which are the Kurds or the Medes in the history of time. We talked about the Medes and how the Kurds are part of this Daniel 8 prophecy, how we would see the Medes or the Kurds, and I believe maybe he won't signal it, but he'll invade and then he'll leave, or he'll leave the EU and NATO and then invade. I don't know exactly how that's going to happen. I am concerned about an invasion date of October 9th, as I've talked about on my paradigm, which I've found. It concerns me that we have a potential another invasion date on the same date that they did it in October 9th of 2019 today, in 2023. Just a date to watch as this ramps up, and it is ramping up tremendously. So let's look at some of these articles because I think it's important to see just how quickly this is moving. And this is going to recap the last week or so, just so to keep you update. And I'm not going to go through the articles. I'm just going to go through the headings, sort of give you a feel, and it shows you the articles and stuff here. These are found on my Facebook page on Jim Boltemeyer. So if you want to go out and look at, because I update constantly news articles on this page. So if you want to be part of my Facebook page, that's fine. I mainly do just posts so you can keep update, current events, things like that, mainly Middle East. So that's about all I use this platform for. So in this article, Erdogan says he's going to leave the EU. That was on the 16th. I showed that there was a specific date that reflects that on the paradigm. So that concerns me that he's getting ready to part. And when he does, he would then leave NATO. And then that would create an invasion into Syria and Iraq against the Kurds, which would then start the Daniel 8 prophecy, where the Kurds would then align with Iran. And we would then watch Turkey crush both these nations as indicated in those prophecies. So I'm just going to keep going through the articles. I want to show you just how fast this is breaking down, and there's a lot going on between Israel, Iran, Turkey, Russia, and a number of things. The thing you need to understand about Russia is they're aligning with Iran and Assad, okay? So this isn't going to end up well for Putin down here, because Turkey's not going to tolerate this, and he's going to push back pretty heavily on this. And everybody's concerned about Russia being Rosh, which isn't found in the Bible, in the older Bible. So, I don't know what their full extent of what Russia's capacity is other than selling weapons and things like that. But they're not a main part in the actual prophecy in general, because it's a Muslim, Christian, Jew prophecy, not a communist prophecy. So when people say Russia, go back to the older Bibles, realize there is no Rosh, and then you have to realize then that if you look at the area where Gog in the land of Magog, in the area of Meshech and Tubal are, they're all in Turkey, that this leader will come out of Turkey. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of raids going on across the Israeli border. There's a lot of things coming up now. Gaza's starting to break out. West Bank starting to break out. Lebanon is having all kinds of problems. You're going to see a lot of that as we move through these articles. So we've had all kinds of different articles indicating confrontations between Israel and their borders, and so we need to watch, the Golan Heights, West Bank, Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria in these areas, because we're starting to see massive pressure applied to Israel, and Israel does not have the capacity to take on multiple front attacks. They weren't really set up for that. They're set up for one front attacks, not three, potentially from the north, east, and west, because they're up against the sea. So they're going to be attacked from multiple different locations. There's issues at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the Temple Mount. We've talked about the Temple Mount and how the Israeli National Security Guard has brought all kinds of conflict up there, and that is continuing in general. This is going to be a fairly quick article because it's just really important. Hold on a second. I don't know why that is not edited. Let me do this again. It doesn't look like it's going to be either. Anyway, I'd done some videos on my YouTube channel, so you can see those. This is one of them. I've updated my web page. My Wix free site has all the videos out there now, so that's been updated. But realize that all these articles are within the last week. Okay, Turkey's got an attack on Syrian fighters. A lot of people are being killed. This is normally a Syrian or a Turkish-backed group that they're actually going against. And I talked about this area here, which is where Turkey's going to come down into, and that original invasion is going to occur. And you're going to see that as we move through some of these different articles. So there's just all kinds of different things happening in the news that we should be concerned about. And not a lot of people are watching the Kurds, Turkey, and Iran and all this. Now it's starting to come out in the news, so people are actually starting to pay attention, but it hasn't up to this point. You're going to see this ramp up tremendously, and hopefully it will take up more news because it's more important than the Russian war up there, even though I get it, it's important. This is prophecy, okay? So we need to be paying attention to what's going on here. We've had multiple airstrikes and different things on the Kurdish regions, and so this is happening in both Syria and Iraq. It shows you these areas that are being affected. This whole northern border is going to be affected, but the invasion will come down into Syria from Turkey, okay? So we need to watch that. Now Erbil is right about in here. So once the Kurds are pushed to Erbil, drop down to Baghdad, and then over to Shush, that's your Daniel 8 prophecy. When that happens and these Kurds drop down into Iran, because they're being basically genocided towards this area from the west, they will align with Iran because these are all northern, or these are all Kurdish regions along this west border here. So you're going to see massive refugee flows coming across, and it indicates that this alignment would happen in Shush, Iran, so or around that area. So I've talked about how the Kurds would be pushed to Erbil, which is Gaugamela in the past, drop to Baghdad. They would then go towards Shush, and they would all pool in this area, and that would be when Turkey would actually come over and smash both Russia, or both Iran and the Kurds at the same time. And like I say, I'm not going to go through all these articles. There's so many of them. It would take me hours to get through them. Just realize I'm giving you the article, the feed. You can go out and look at them so you can see what's going on. Iran regime is primed for total collapse. They're having protests. They just set up more strict dress rules for their women, and so there's going to be major pushback on that. So we need to watch that. And we had that killing of that Kurdish woman that took her headscarf off, and they killed her for that. That was approximately about a year ago. So this we're having anniversaries of very significant things. Saudi Arabia is defending their cutting of gas or oil, and so you're watching fuels move back up on the pump up to close to you know, that $4 to $5 range depending on where you are in the country. Gaza's starting to break out, and this is important because they're not only going to be attacked from the north, the west, and the south, and there's rockets potentially up to 2,000 rockets in each of these areas that they could be launching per day. And that's what I talked about. Potentially 5,000 to 6,000 rockets could be launched on Israel once they all work together and make this attack happen. And they are coordinating. They've had multiple different meetings of coordination within these groups. And so they are getting ready to do something. But I believe that October 9th date could be important. Not only two things could happen on that date. I don't say they're going to happen. I said could. One is an invasion by Turkey, and we're in Yom Kippur now, which is the Day of Atonement. That runs today and tomorrow, so there could be something happen on that specific set of days. So today and tomorrow should be watched. If you get into that October 9th date where Michael comes forward and then goes against Iran, we could see an attack by Israel on Iran. So that would be another possibility. It sort of indicates, based on the verbiage of that it would be Israel that actually attacks Iran first to eliminate the problem, but it doesn't work out really well, and then Turkey comes in after that, as I've showed you. And so we have to look at the potential scenarios of what is going to happen and why that would happen. Iran is constantly attacking through their proxies, but whether it will be coordinated attack that Israel would have to do something about is another topic. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the prophecy is built that way. It shows that Michael goes against Iran, and that he's been dealing with them for up to 21 days prior to that. And so I've talked about that September 16th date when Erdogan had decided that he was threatening to leave the EU, that was going to be an issue. And as we move forward, it has been. As you can see, this is ramping up tremendously. So the Iranian president just addressed the UN. Of course, he wants to kill the Americans and destroy Israel. Wow, that's an amazing speech that he gave there, huh? Wow. Yet we give these people $6 billion. Iran $6 billion to get 5 people back. You got to know what they're using that money for, and the administration should not be funding them to destroy people and kill Americans, which is basically what this administration is doing at this time. The Iraqi president will summon the Turkish ambassador over airstrikes in Kurdish regions over Iraq. So they're having meetings between Turkey and Iraq, and I've talked about how these regional Kurdish people were in 4 different countries, and they're just sort of, they have no real, they have a regional capital in Erbil, but they're sort of nomads, and they have been living in this country almost as long as anyone, and so they're been grained into these areas. And so all these areas are starting to light up at this very moment. Iraq condemns repeated Turkish attacks against Kurdish. Now, this is right after he just made this comment as he was getting ready to leave on the 16th. The EU, Turkey, Erdogan, that now we're 3 days into this, and we're watching massive protests and attacks and border skirmishes, and we're watching the area around that initial invasion that I've been talking about really starting to lighten up. Assad actually went to China. You know what I mean? Come on, man. I mean, that hasn't happened in forever. So Assad goes to China. He's got all kinds of protests going on. Turkey says that basically Assad needs to go away, and Iran's backing him, and they're funding weapons to Iran. And so Russia's not in a good place with Turkey. On the other front of this, we have this Azerbaijan-Armenia battle going on, which is part of the 10 nations. So Azerbaijan is one of those nations that I've talked about in my chart. Now, I have indicated that it would be Armenia too, but I should clarify that because I know it's Azerbaijan and they're going to be trying to genocide the Armenians as they've been doing for a long time, and Turkey's also been helping in that process. But if you go to that chart of the 10 or nations, or the statue of the feet of the iron and clay, one of those nations is Azerbaijan. And so that's part of this Ezekiel 38:39 prophecy, is that they will be one of the nations that will go against Israel as we move forward in the next few months. Here's one about the Turkish intelligence service announcing neutralization of certain specific Kurdish leaders, and so they're neutralizing the heads of some of these areas, and they know the intelligence, so they're going in and actually doing surgical strikes against these leaders, which is then weakening these areas, which are having to be vacuums, which are being filled with other people that would be the second command or third command of what's left. Assad is bombing with artillery all kinds of different communities and towns. Um, Turkey is chastising the West over Quran burnings. Erdogan and Netanyahu meet for the first time. Now, this is really interesting. So, what happens in the past was the king of Judah saw the Assyrian attacking them, and so they relied on different groups, and they aligned with certain people to think that they would then help repel the Assyrian. What happens is, so if you look at Jeremiah in the past, as Nebuchadnezzar, or in this case Turkey, comes down and starts to come against them, Israel tries to recruit the Egyptians, and so they quit paying homage to Nebuchadnezzar and they actually recruit the Egyptians. When Nebuchadnezzar comes down, the Egyptians bail and they flee home or go home, and so Israel is left stranded. Turkey in this case would do similar to what happened in the past. He would eliminate not only the Assyrian or Iran at this moment, he would also go down into Egypt, and that would then capitulate the Egyptians also, and that's part of the Ezekiel 38:39 prophecy, is that when you go into Ezekiel 38 and 39, the first three countries listed after the leader of Turkey indicated there is Persia, which is Iran, Put, and Cush, which surround Egypt, and so you know that all these areas are being affected. I just did a video about how the government is, and you watch the markets, they're really in trouble right now. We've hit 33 trillion, so if you want to check that out, I posted it out here. But if you go to my YouTube channel on James Boltemeyer, you can go out and you can see these videos. I also did an update on the paradigm, which I converted all the Gregorian dates to Hebrew dates, which really didn't change much, but it really, I believe, clarified a lot of these dates on the paradigm, and it places them in the proper position because it's off the Hebrew calendars and not the Gregorian calendars. The last 24 hours, this is ramping up. I mean, it is ramping up. And so you need to really pay attention to what's going on in the Middle East. You need to pay attention to Turkey, Netanyahu, all these groups. Something's going to break out soon. You're in Yom Kippur right now. The next 2 days are the Day of Atonement. So between now and I believe the October 9th date that I've been talking about, between the actually 16th of September and October 9th, there's going to be a massive ramping up to a potential invasion into Syria by Turkey. We're having all kinds of violent surges against these meetings between Netanyahu and Biden through the Palestinians. The Palestinians are pushing back. They want this. They want their own country. Abbas has been out here complaining to the UN that they want, this to happen. Israel says its tanks hit two structures used by the Syrian army in the Golan Heights area. So now Golan Heights is starting to light up. And I've talked about that. We've talked a lot about Lebanon, West Bank, Gaza, but also Golan Heights is part of this. This is that article about the Palestinian leader Abbas and how he's not happy with the UN and how they can't seem to get any kind of peace there, and they're not getting full rights like all the other countries are. Erdogan also raised his rates from, I believe, 20% to 30%, and so he's trying to fight massive inflation over there, and so his country's collapsing. And when your country collapses, what do? You go to war. Israel strikes alleged okay, we already did that one. And look at that. It says these buildings were violated. This attack, supposedly, based on this article, violated a 1974 ceasefire agreement. And so there's a lot happening. And wow, look at that. It's a really interesting article. The Fed now, the 2-year Treasury, which I told you was going to melt up, has melted up tremendously since the Fed hawkish decision to pause, but he said he's going to raise again. Now the 2-year bond's melting up, and that's going to affect all your bond rates. The Houthis are now into it, so you got Yemen starting to get into the system, which is another problem. That, I mean, I've talked about Yemen too at times. So just realize Israeli striking the Gaza border, all these are within the last few hours. Azerbaijan, like I say, post all these out here. You can see them. The Syrian live map is starting to light up again, so they're going to hopefully be posting some of that. Multiple groups. There's so many groups that are actually fighting over here. It's hard to keep track of them. We talked about the Syrian defensive forces. They're going at it also. And these are operations against the Turkish-backed areas up there, okay? They had some kind of incendiary balloons flying over the border of Israel with Gaza. Turkey. Oh, this is interesting. So look at this article. Mendez has been indicted on bribery charges, which he was the one that was going to stop the sale of the F-16 jets. That might be by God, because I believe they will give them the jets. Maybe before this attack happens, but it just eliminates another block against Erdogan, and so he's probably guilty. I don't know. I'm not going to judge this man, but he was a roadblock to getting F-16s to Erdogan, and now that roadblock seems to be cut off, and now we're having and this is what I mean, we're watching massive conflict where the Iranian, Russian, and the Turkish FMs are getting together to talk about this crisis. I'm guessing that they're going to come back, and this is not going to give Turkey the proper answers, and he's just going to do whatever he wants. And look there, Turkish defense minister indicates they will not withdraw military from Syria and Iraq until security is established. And then we're watching massive neutralization of KK and YPG groups in Syria and Iraq through Turkey. And so, yes, this is getting out of control, and it's going to ramp up tremendously. So if you do want to come join my Facebook page, it's basically an informational page for people that are into end days. I'm sure my friends love me when I post all this stuff on their sites, because most of them don't care about any of this stuff. But in the same breath, I think it's important that it is going to affect them greatly, even though they don't want to pay attention. Same thing happened back in Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and all these Isaiah day, where no one listened to them. Nobody. They did all kinds of different things to try to tell people that this was coming, and nobody paid any attention until it was too late, and then it was too late to do anything about it. So keep your eye on this. I believe the next few weeks are going to be extremely violent out here, and we're going to see an invasion by Turkey soon. So God bless you all. Find the open door, find Jesus. I just wanted to bring this updated information to you and let you know that this Daniel 8 prophecy is getting ready to play out soon. And that will lead you into Ezekiel 38:39. And you can also look at Psalm 83 also.